So the Google definition of a republic is a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected officials, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. Right. So what that means is that okay, so a group of people have their own elected official or can elect their own official, right? So the idea of a republic, for my example, would be similar to like the Galactic Republic in Star Wars, right? The Galactic Republic was huge in Star Wars, but can you imagine 1,000 planets with all their own different species and all come together in one building to represent their single planet, right? So they're trying to represent number one their values. They're trying to represent aspirations and goals for their own goal and their own planet, right? And their people as well. So they're not really caring for the other person's aspirations and goals across the street because they want to maintain their goals with people. Right, one of the big problems with republics or representation republics that have representation for each state or minorities or majorities of people is that every person will have their own opinion, will have their own goals. Obviously, everybody will, right? There always will be factions that grow up. That's a big one as well. But can you take for example, if there is 100 people who represent, let's say the Mongol Empire is remade, and 100 people represent, the countries that are absorbed into the Mongol Empire, people from Russia, people from Iran, Asia, and they represent all those states there. Well, all these representatives are very different people. They have very different ethnicities, races, nationalities, very different beliefs, religions, all that stuff. So they all have different goals. So now let's say from that 100, 20 of those people say, 20 of them say, okay, I like the emperor, so I'm going to support the emperor. Now let's say 50% out of that 100, so they just lost 20, so now it's 70. 50% out of that, or no, not 50%, but 30% out of that 70 now says, okay, I like the landlords that we have now, and I think the landlords are probably better than the emperor, so they break off. Those 30 break off. Well, now it's 40. I think, right? 70, 60, 50. Yeah, so it's 40. So you have 40 left. So let's say those 40 split into 20, and one says, okay, I like the king's better. Then one says, okay, I like the monarch better, right? I like the king, or I like a parliament, or something like that. Well, now you have out of that 100 people, you have people who like the emperor, people who like a different system, landlords here, people who like a kingdom here, people who like a parliament over here, like a monarchy over here. Well, you just forged like 5 factions out of 100 people, right? So that was also one of the problems with the Galactic Republic, was that a lot of the people would break into different factions. There were so many people in the Galactic Republic Senate for in Star Wars that all of them had their own aspirations and goals, right? So you can never agree with somebody on anything, you get anything passed, right? Because everybody had their different aspirations, their goals, or everything. So it comes down to the idea that every republic that has representatives, every single representative would have their own goal that would determine what faction they join, what bill they vote on, what bill they agree with, what bill they don't agree with, right? What will they say yes to, or will they say no to, right? So everybody have their own aspirations. They really break into different factions, right? But to also reinforce what I'm talking about, you can look at the U.S. Republic, or representatives that come from the U.S. states. A lot of them are obviously they're American, right? They're American. Their nationality is American. Grew up in America. All that stuff, but they don't really divide themselves based on, they divide themselves obviously based on their goals. Like, okay, this is my goal right here, my aspirations, but they also divide themselves based on politics, like what political party you want. Obviously, like Democrats, Republicans, Independents, all other like weed parties and all that stuff. But they divide themselves among that. Like, those are factions right there. So you could say like a Senate, for example, it's split right down the middle. But each single person is one person or one representative. That's an actual person. They can make their own decisions. They have their own goals. Disregarding people from the state, they can make their own goals and aspirations be known, right? So it's the idea that the U.S. has the same culture in the aspect of everybody's American, but they're all had different races, obviously, and other countries and all that stuff. But they all have their own aspirations and goals. Every representative has their own aspirations and goals. That's the problem of the republic, right? Is that it's very, very hard to unite people from this faction over here, this faction over here, this faction back there, or this far faction over here, or these 5 people who don't like everybody else, or this one person who doesn't like everybody else, right? So it's very, very hard. And you can see in Star Wars, it was very, very hard to get a lot of stuff done in the Senate, because a lot of the other, species or the people didn't like what some of the other people would suggest, or like Padme would suggest. So it's the issue right there, but it's also the issue that every single person has a goal, right? So when you look at the idea of like separating stuff like that in Star Wars, well, there was a handful of people of senators and representatives who wanted to actually separate from the Republic because they had their own aspirations and goals of what they wanted, right? And that there's no way to break, what people want in their goals and aspirations of life, right? So same with factions. You cannot get rid of factions in a republic or democracy. Difficult at all, and to get rid of factions, they become a dictatorship, and you don't want to do that. So republics are doomed to fail because every single person has a goal, and they have their goal, and they will most likely break into factions, and they will separate themselves into factions based on what they agree with and what they don't agree with, right? So for example, it's very hard for the president now, I think Biden now, or Trump when he was president, years ago, for him to get stuff, for example, for him to get stuff passed, and the Senate or the Congress was in the other party's favor, it would be very difficult to get that bill passed. You can say like 100 Democrats would say, okay, 70% agree with it, but the 30% don't agree with it, right? So you always have people who have their own goals will say, okay, we'll do this because I want to do this, because there are people too as well. So that's why republics are doomed, because people would just pick their own goals and they have their own aspirations. So it's just basically, a doom cycle, right? Because everybody has their own goals and their own desires for what they want to do with their position. So I hope this benefits somebody. That if you have like a government class or you're in school right now, just look into the idea of like why republics have struggled, or why republics have problems when it comes to like representatives of people, or representatives of like counties or states or whatever, is because that person there has their own aspirations and their goals for what they want to do, right? And then they might truly have aspirations of what people want, and it might not line up with somebody else's. So it's conflicting, main goals and ideas and aspirations for what they want to do. But I hope you guys did enjoy, and I hope you guys can take some insight from this, or learning whatever it may be. But Google republics, look into republics, do your research on it by yourself. But also look at the good about republics, the freedom they provide, and look at the bad about it when it comes to infighting and political squabbling and the toughness of being able to pass any bills or being able to pass any laws or whatever it may be. And also, I forgot to put one of the parts here that in Star Wars, the Senate Republic and the Galactic Republic, it was very hard because a lot of people were corrupt in the Senate, and it was very easy to corrupt people because there are so many representatives. You can just corrupt them. It was very easy to change them over. We don't see that too much, in our modern times, at least publicly, but it could happen. It's a very good thing that could happen. Not a good thing that could happen, but it can happen, right? So I hope you guys enjoy. I'm going to end the video right here. Goals and aspirations and factions will lead to the doom of republics, and every republic has goals, aspirations, and factions, and their own beliefs.
People's goals will also tip, or can also tip to instability, and can also tip to factionalism. Also, like John Locke talked about, you can't get rid of factions, you can't do this or that and the third, right? You can't really limit factions unless you get a dictatorship, and that's not what you want. But bye-bye.
Just want to put this in there, that the Galactic Republic would fall anyways, or the Galactic Senate would actually fall and collapse because even without the Sith Grade plan or like the Clone Wars, I guarantee you there would still be a faction or somebody who would rifle people up to try to rebel or try to break away from the Republic and break away from their basically imperial rule. So bye bye.